Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to make a maple pecan biscotti. I think this is only the second time I've ever made biscotti on the channel. Not a huge fan. For a very long time I didn't understand what biscotti, I didn't understand the attraction to biscotti. Knew what biscotti was, didn't understand the attraction. I never had one that I actually enjoyed. I didn't give up. I kept trying, I kept trying, I kept trying, and eventually I started to find ones that I did like. And I started experimenting at home, and this is one that I think is really going to work out. I think it's going to work out. So we're going to start out in our stand mixer with some plain white sugar, some brown sugar, some melted butter, and then this. This is maple sugar. So I make this myself. I'll link to a video down below. Maple sugar has an intense, really intense maple flavor. I started playing around with this recipe and this idea by just using maple syrup as the flavoring agent. And this is our own maple syrup. Again, there's a video somewhere on our channel of me making this in our backyard. The maple flavor wasn't intense enough. So this is some maple sugar. I'm going to put that in, and we'll just turn on the mixer, get that mixing together. So I'm playing around with a bunch of different cookie recipes to get ready for this summer. This summer, again, 2024, just like 2023, I am flying in the Give Hope Wings charity event. We're going to crisscross Eastern Canada. Going to start out in Prince Edward Island, and then move back through New Brunswick, Quebec, Northern Ontario, and then back to sort of southeastern Ontario. And Give Hope Wings is a charity that raises money to support Hope Air. Hope Air is a group that provides flights to Canadians that live in the more remote areas of Canada that need to get to the large city centers for medical attention, operations, cancer treatment, that sort of thing. Canada is a vast, huge country, and there are a lot of places where it's, travel is time-consuming and difficult to get from even parts of Northern Ontario to get to Toronto. You could be looking at an 8, 10, 12-hour drive. There are other people that live in parts of Canada that you can't drive to or from. They don't have all-weather roads. The only way in or out is by aircraft, and that's where Hope Air comes in. They use private pilots like myself to ferry people from these more remote communities to a larger center like Thunder Bay or Sudbury, and then from there they can catch a commercial flight to Toronto. And Hope Air takes care of all of the arrangements for people in need of medical attention. This is separate from air ambulance. This is for operations and cancer treatments and things like that. And so last summer, 2023, you, my viewers, raised $27,000 for the cause. And I'm hoping that again this summer we can raise some money, because we really made a difference last year in a lot of people's lives. I'll put the links below. I will be filming the trip and putting that on our airplane channel. Again, links below if you want to check that out. And I really do thank you for considering donating to the cause. I think it's a very worthy cause. So that's mixed up pretty nicely. I'm going to put in the maple syrup. And crack in one egg at a time. Get that fully incorporated, and then crack in the next. Okay, now we'll deal with the dry ingredients. I've got flour, baking powder, and some salt. Question I get asked a lot is, what kind of butter do I use? I use salted butter in pretty much everything I bake. And I know there's a big, I'm supposed to tell you to use unsalted butter. I know that is the societal norm. For a person in my position, I'm supposed to tell you to use unsalted butter. And I know where that comes from. That comes from, 150 years ago. Back when people were making making butter at home, and they would salt it to preserve it, to keep it for a very long time, because they probably didn't have adequate refrigeration year-round. butter was heavily, heavily salted. And when I look in my old cookbooks from the 1800s, an instruction that's often given is soak the butter before using it in your baking to remove a lot of that salt, or use freshly churned butter, which presumably is unsalted. And it was because you didn't know how much salt was in the butter that it was a problem. You couldn't properly salt the rest of your baking. This is some, that's some vanilla, maybe too much vanilla, but you know, can you have too much vanilla? Anyway, so there was always that instruction to use fresh unsalted butter or soak your butter for a while and change the water several times to get rid of some of that salt. Today, I know that a pound of Canadian butter at most can have, I think it's around 2 teaspoons of salt per pound. So it's very easy for me to adjust the salt in the rest of my baking. And the salt amount in the United States is pretty much the same, I think. Okay, so I'll turn that down. In go the chopped pecans. And then I'll just spoon in the flour a little bit at a time until it's all incorporated. And by the time all of this flour is incorporated, it will be pretty tough for the mixer to mix. Okay, I've got a 9x13 cake pan that I've buttered and put a parchment sling in just so it's easy to get out. You could totally freeform this part. Turn this into sort of, you know, a lumpy log type thing on a baking tray and bake it. I'm just gonna try and keep it uniform. There's something to me about trying to keep it uniform today. See how it works out. I've done it in the past where it's freeform, and it works out fine. And it looks very rustic. You know, makes it look very homemade. But I'm going to try this time, see what happens. So, get in with your hands and tamp it down. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is going to bake for about an hour. Okay, so after it was baked in the oven, I took it out of the oven, let it cool on the countertop, and then I stuck it in the fridge for a couple of hours. It's a little bit easier to cut if it's been in the fridge. So, get it over here onto the cutting board, and we'll get a knife. So I just cut them and lay them on the parchment paper like that. That is parchment paper that I have reused. I used it for a different batch of cookies earlier this morning. I cut this down into more manageable sizes, and I did overbake it earlier this morning. I get busy. I got 3 different baking projects on the go today, and I've got stuff that's going on, and I missed the timer. So these were in the oven in the first bake, probably an extra 15 minutes that they didn't need to be in there. Don't worry, it's okay. They're not burnt. I tasted some. They're fine. So I'm cutting them about 3/4 of an inch thick this way. I've turned the temperature on the oven down to 325. I'll fill up the tray, stick them in the oven, bake them for 10-12 minutes on this side, flip them over, and bake them for another 10 or 12 minutes. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn. Sorry, I'm a little slow arriving, everyone. Sorry, slow for the entry.
Julie brought the tea.
I did. I had instructions to bring tea.
Excellent.
And I see why. These are clearly dunking.
So
they look like dunking cookies.
So it's biscotti. I'm not don't make a lot of biscotti. I think I've made it once on the channel.
So you know what's funny is I kind of like the biscotti before it's got its second bake.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Okay, don't write the comments. Everyone gets to make their choices.
Yeah, I wouldn't bake them twice either. I would just cut them up. Now, I did...
But they do last longer and they travel better and all those other things.
So I did end up on the first bake baking them too long because I got distracted. I was doing a bunch of different things.
What? Distracted?
Yeah.
I'm going for the dunk right away because, it's nothing like a great dunk. They are good for dunking, though. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
That's a nice flavor to it.
Maple.
Aha!
Maple pecan.
Is this a Glen made up? That's pretty good, Glen. So since you made it up, you can call it whatever you want.
Maple pecan. Why think too much about it? It's a maple pecan biscotti. So I did it in a pan thinking that I would get nice, square. Exactly. I should have just freeformed a loaf on the baking pan for the first bake. That would have been much better. Would have been much better. Anyway, they still taste good. And I'm still going to have a lot of fun eating these over the next few nights because we're into the home stretch. Well, right now, we're on the day we're filming this, we're in the home stretch for
Yeah, we're
sumo.
halfway through.
Yeah.
People have earned their kachikoshi. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of tea to drink over the next couple nights.
So I will be on the couch, drinking tea, eating biscotti, watching sumo.
All right, to date.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.